Love talking college football with you. Anytime.
All right, brother. I'll call you later.
All right.
That was awesome. Give Caden a follow. He's always dropping notes that are, well, the kind of caliber that national sports talk show host would salivate over. The man has tremendous chops. He manages to put a day of sports inside of 2 and 3 minute segments on TV. I take like 8 minutes to get to a point, but I'm also much more of a sports talk show host. All right. Now that we have had our guest, let's talk a little bit about, well, what you want to talk about, and also get into a little bit of what I want to talk about, which is why let's talk about 10 things to watch in the NY Six Bowls is kind of a placeholder headline, because I just want to see what the conversation was like. Been having a lot of guests come through, and I don't always get to talk about what you want to talk about in the live stream, though I see the live stream. So let's, man, RJ, look at the other way or some. Looking for questions. If you got a question, drop it in the chat. Otherwise, I'm probably going to go off on a tangent. But while I'm waiting on questions to get dropped in the chat, many of you know that I have been reading a biography of Nick Saban. It is called The Making of a Coach, Saban, The Making of a Coach, by Monty Burke. It is excellent. Like, if it was about a political figure, we'd probably be talking about this as a Pulitzer Prize winning book because it is that well reported. But I'm going to give you guys a story that I read in here that is about Nick Saban's first year with the Miami Dolphins. And my goodness, this is a doozy. All right. At the Miami Dolphins annual rookie talent show, Matt Roth and Channing Crowder, the second and third round picks respectively that year, decided to team up for their act. Instead of trying to sing or dance or tell jokes, they opted to go with a thing a bit bolder. With the coaches, players, and staff gathered in an auditorium at the Dolphins headquarters, Crowder called rookie head coach Nick Saban to the stage, which had as a prop a single chair. I looked out into the crowd and said, "Hey, coach, we just appreciate you giving us a chance to play in the NFL, and we want to show you some love," says Crowder. With that, he pointed to the chair and invited Saban to sit down. Somewhat reluctantly, he obliged. He sat facing Crowder and Roth. At that moment, KJ Harris, an undrafted free agent who had been signed by the team, was supposed to start playing some loud club music over the speakers, but couldn't figure out how to get the CD player to work. The surprise that Crowder and Roth had in store for Saban didn't wait for her cue, however. From behind him, a stripper dressed in high heels, a very small bikini, and a Jason Taylor Dolphins jersey pranced out of a door and onto the stage. She touched Saban's back. He flinched. When she walked around to face Saban, he shot straight up in the chair. Harris still couldn't figure out how to get the music working. The auditorium was instead filled with shouts and catcalls coming from the seats. The stripper moved in front of Saban and began to dance provocatively. He sat completely still for one more moment, then abruptly stood up, walked off the stage, and hustled up the stairs. The room went silent. There were like 30 stairs, says Crowder. All you could hear was the click, click, click of his shoes, then the door creaking open, and then boom, when he shut it behind him. The room exploded into delirious peals of laughter. It was pretty immature on our part to include Saban in that skit, says Crowder. But that's why we did it. Yo, man, they put a stripper out in front of Nick Saban and didn't tell him about it. Yo, I can only imagine how that must have felt. But it's also indicative of his experience as the head coach of Miami Dolphins. Just some fascinating and really great stories in there. Let's see. Cole Powers asks, opinion on Coastal Carolina coach Jamie Chadwell winning Coach of the Year. I give it to him. It's either him or Nick Saban, right? Or, I mean, you can make an argument for Luke Fickell, but Jamie Chadwell putting together the season that they did, that game that they scheduled at BYU just a couple of days out, getting a win against an undefeated BYU that we were talking about having a claim to a national championship or even a claim to the college football playoff before losing that game. Huge, right? They get to 11-0. They win a share of the Sun Belt title. We would have loved to see Louisiana play against them in a Sun Belt championship, but they share the title according to league rules. Play an overtime game against Liberty that they lose 37-34 on a blocked field goal. Liberty gets to 10 wins. Outstanding season for the Chanticleers. You know their name. We know it's in Conway, South Carolina. They were the last undefeated team in South Carolina. When you take into account Clemson is in South Carolina, that's a big deal. I'm amazed by that, and I'm really excited for the Chants and what they have going for themselves. I enjoy Sun Belt football. I think it is an extremely entertaining brand of football, just like the American. And this is another reason why I want to see the playoff expanded. I want to see those teams showcased. Not that they'll win a national championship, but somebody will. But not that you're going to see it often. I still think it's a very cool thing, and I'm happy for Chadwell. I'm happy for the Chants. Let's see. This dude says a stripper. Let's see. What else we got in here? Do you still think Fields is better than Lawrence? Yes. Yes, I do. I think Justin Fields is also going to be the better pro than Trevor Lawrence. That's me. Let me see. Notre Dame game should tell you all about Trevor. I mean, Notre Dame's a good football team. They ain't Ohio State. Like, to put it mildly, last year they needed a late interception to beat Ohio State in the Fiesta Bowl and then got railroaded by LSU. This year, the game, it should tell you a lot that it's only 7.5. Clemson's favored by 7.5, right? And that's mostly because of how Ohio State looked against Northwestern. If you think that they're going to come out with the same sort of game plan and be able to succeed, you're wrong, right? You also didn't have Chris Olave in that game. Trey Sermon has one hell of a game, 331 yards on the ground for the Buckeyes, single-game rushing record. I think it's going to be entertaining. I'm here to watch it. I want to see those two dudes duel, and I'm excited to see both of them. But also, I think it's a taste test, right? Just because I like Justin Fields better than I like Trevor Lawrence doesn't mean that Trevor Lawrence is bad. Like, they're the two best players in college football, right? Like, this is a Heisman year for Devontae Smith, and I get that. And Najee Harris has been great, and Mac Jones has been great. But if we're going to pick one dude, I could go with either one of those, and I'd be fine with it. Let's see. Okay, Miranda. You get to go. Bye. Goodness me. Fields needs to get one more year. Forget you played only 19 games. Yeah, no, I mean, like, when I talked to Quincy Avery for a piece I wrote about Justin Fields earlier this year, he said the reason that it was big for him is because there is a direct correlation between the number of games that you play as a quarterback in college to how successful you are in the NFL. And on that front, Trevor Lawrence hasn't beat, right? And that would be a good reason to draft Trevor Lawrence ahead of Justin Fields if that's what you wanted to do. I would be on board with that. I understand. Let's see. RJ, how about the competition between the two O-lines, Alabama and Notre Dame, Landon Dickerson being out for Alabama might end up being a big deal, but that team seems to feel very comfortable with Chris Owens being the starting center for them. We're also well aware that Notre Dame is something of an OLU, not unlike Alabama. I think they also both boast really great backs. Kyron Williams is really good. Najee Harris is really good. The difference, I think, normally would be between the tight ends, but that's not really that big of an edge. Although Alabama's got a tight end that returns kicks, guys. Like Jaleel Billingsley returns kicks and plays tight end. What? To go along with Miller Forrestall, who's actually the starter. What? And then they got Halloween out there and Michael Mayer, for Notre Dame, to say nothing of Ben Skronerick. Like, they got dudes too. The difference is going to be on the back end, and if Ian Book can throw the ball the way that Kyle Trask was able to throw the ball, it could be a lot more fun. That said, there's a reason why the spread is 20 points, and Vegas had its best month ever in November betting against us, and they set the line. Probably going to be Alabama in a rout.